Okay.
Because for many, many years, I believed from childhood that the voice that I could hear, I believed it was God punishing me and God talking to me.
Mm.
It didn't feel that it was an internal voice. It didn't feel like it was a voice that I knew. It felt very as if it was out, an external voice. And because things were happening when I was a child, really cemented that belief that I had that it was like a punishing voice, a godlike voice, or somebody else's voice that was punishing me for what I'd done.
What did you do? To be punished in that way?
I was sexually abused as a child.
You did do that.
But around that time when that was happening, so like that was from between the ages of like 5, 6-ish to 10 and a half, although the threat continued after then. It actually stopped then. But during that time and going on to a couple of years later, I was always, I've said before in other videos and stuff, even at that young age, I wanted to not exist anymore. I didn't understand suicide or anything like that, but I knew that I didn't want to exist. I wished that I could not exist, and I used to cry and pray to God on a night and saying, why can't I come down with a disease? Why can't I get run over by a bus? Very simplistic, childlike ways that I could think of to end my life because I hated it. Why wasn't I a miscarriage? Why couldn't I get a disease? And those kind of things. I just really didn't want to live anymore. And when I was about 11, 12 type of age, I'd stopped mixing with friends and stuff like that. But a couple of times I went to like church youth groups, church gatherings sort of thing. And the message that I heard there was that God punished people who took their own life or who wanted to take their own life.
How did they know?
That's what just they were said. That's what just they said.
Right. If someone took their own life and God punished them, they'd taken their life, so they never came back and told them that.
No, it's just that's I was very much at that age is whatever anybody told me, I believed. I felt that everybody knew better than I did.
For God to punish them?
Yeah. That's what they said. They said that God would punish those who took their own life. It wasn't their own life to get.
God's just here to punish everyone.
Yeah.
Then how are they not being punished?
I don't know. I just thought it just what I heard was if you take your own life or you want to take your own life, God will punish you. And there was some bits about, because it was like a youth group, a young group, I think they wanted to warn or put people off having underage sex and being what they said were promiscuous and stuff like that. And I remember saying, talk of like that it's wrong to be intimate before marriage, and that you shouldn't be like that, and that girls should dress a certain way because it would give the wrong impression and all those things. And in my muddled self, I thought, I'm really bad because I know what's happened to me and I know what to do with that, and I know I don't want to live. So I felt that I was going to be punished, and this voice that I could hear from then on, although it's changed over time in what I said, it was telling me, you're bad, you're horrible, nothing will go right for you, you deserve all bad things to happen, everybody's better than you. And it was, as a child and growing up in my teenage years, that's what this outside voice told me. Even if I was, when I was driving, even if I was late for somewhere because the traffic lights were at red or there was a breakdown or anything like that, I'd be like, that's God's punishment. I'm going to be late because I'm going to be showing up and I'm going to look unreliable and people are going to hate me and think I'm stupid and I'm going to have to walk in when everybody else is there. So every little thing it's raining, that's God punishing me because it's going to spoil my day, what I've got to do. And it's like to say that I can't have anything nice. It went to that extreme.
So my interpretation of what you've just said is you've come onto a planet, yeah, and you've been, as we discussed before, like saying sexually abused as a cover. So you was raped for 5 years as a child by a grown man. And then you went to church and you interpreted from what was said in church that it's your fault, especially hearing that because females shouldn't wear certain clothing. So if you wear a certain clothing, then I guess from that you interpreted is that took that responsibility of that's what happened to me, not because he's bad, because
it was like you were asking for it.
So you're asking for it. So they know what you're thinking in your mind. Then they know that you're asking for something, not from the person who's going to do it anyway. Because people get raped, without wearing certain clothing. Babies get raped.
And I know, like,
older people get raped.
But I excluded all those things that didn't fit.
But from what you're saying is that you've come onto this barbaric planet, this awful planet, with these awful experiences of these aliens on this planet. And, a part of what your psyche does is to make you feel that, so you could survive, because we wouldn't survive, like the child has the death instinct, and we wouldn't survive without the aliens. So you made the aliens be, there's nothing wrong with them, there's something wrong with me. And that's what was introduced to you to a very, very young age. So you could survive that, you then blamed yourself. And so then the part of your id and your ego and superego were developed in that. So the id is the one that wants. It's the one, yeah. And so the one, I need feeding, I need the wants, I need these needs to be met. And quite often, that's the first one that starts, and then the ego, which is in a different sense. If the word ego has different meanings in the ego, in that sense, can become the mediator. So the ego to the one is as the child gets older, and the child's a toddler, and the parent says, "No, you have to learn to share, darling." So then the child's introduced to the external world, you have to learn to share with the external world. So you can't keep that toy, it's to share. And so you have to learn to share and do that. So it becomes the mediator. So you might hear the mediator as an adult. So if you've done enough around the house, you might say, "Oh, give yourself a pat on the shoulder for that." So that's the kind of mediator. You picked these up from the external world. So, when you're saying all this voice that's in your internal world actually came from the external world. It didn't come from anyone else. You weren't born with it. It's come from the external world. So you would have heard somebody say, "Oh, you did good then. Pat yourself on the back." Yeah. And then the superego develops, and what that one is, it's the one that tells you off. So it's the grass. It's when you go red. It's when you feel a kind of way. And it's the one that tells you off. So if your parents told you off, you're going to hear that. If somebody called you a silly cow for doing something, you might drop something and you'll hear it play, the recording play. It's just a recording. And it's recorded everybody's voices because you had to learn while you're on the planet. So the child is set up to be a genius. Yeah? So the child can learn anything that you put in front of it. It learns all about you. It learns all about the adults and the aliens. And it has to learn how to maneuver itself to be able to survive around them. So lots of parents might say, "I don't know where they get that from." And it's like they get it from you. They get everything from you. "Oh, I didn't bring them up like that." Yes, you did. But the difference is that then comes in the things that you're taking into your subconscious, because the conscious mind will, it knows what you're consciously aware of, but it doesn't always know what's in all the things you've stored in your subconscious. So they play out because it begins to leak out if you've got unresolved issues. So quite often when you then born, well, the parent went through exactly the same as you did. It might have been different experiences, but ultimately they were programmed. So they've still got their unfinished business from their child playing out, and they're not aware, might not be aware of it. So that's why they might be saying, "Oh, I didn't bring them up like that," or "Why they're saying that? Why they're swearing or whatever?" And it's like, how many times do you do it? I don't do that because they're not consciously aware of it, but the child is, and the child then takes that in. So that's what you did. You took in the things that you experienced and what you heard when you were growing up. And then what we do is we make a character about ourselves. So there are different character types. So we might make a character, and so what you'll do is you'll act out that character role. So you made a character about yourself that I'm bad and that I need to be punished. And you constantly heard this chattering voice and you identified yourself as that. You're not that. Because the thing that was missed out of teachings in school for human beings is that you're an I am. Because everybody that's born says I am. You're not taught to say I am. You're taught to say your label. So you say your label, you'll say your name, and you say I am, and then you'll end with this. And then you might say the profession that you do, and then you'll end with that label. I am a this. I'm a therapist. I'm a this, I'm a this, I'm a this. You're none of those. They're just add-ons. People have lots of labels, and they want to add something on to their humanness, but they've not learned about how to be a human being. They've just learned about labels, and they've decided this. So that's what the problem is. So the chattering voice is constantly telling you a lie about who you are, and it always tells you a lie. So as you went to church, you might have heard the prayer, "Deliver me from evil." That's your evil, that chattering voice. It's what I call a schizophrenic voice. Everybody has this internal dialogue going on, yeah, and it's not very pleasant. And it might sometimes, if the mediator comes in, the ego and says, "Oh, okay." And then there's the other ego, where people have big egos. And then, so that's how it, that's what it does.
My interpretation is because I didn't know those things. And it did feel as if it were outside, and because of being at the church, those told me those things. And then I picked up on other things in my rest of my environment. They've colluded with it, really. Even like I picked up on things like if something was on the news about somebody taking their own life, my mum would say, "Well, that's selfish, isn't it?" It's like, right, yeah.
And can you see how your mum learned? Yeah, so your mum learned that as well. Yeah.
And again, she'll probably say, "I never said that," or won't remember. But it colluded or agreed with what I thought this voice was telling me and what they'd told me. So because my behaviour changed growing up, I was called naughty, I was called rude. So it all fed to the same thing, that I wasn't a good person, that I was horrible, everybody was better than me. And that's how I sort of like lived my teenage life, thinking that I was no good, isolating from people because I didn't want to be around them. I didn't want them to know how bad I was. I started pretending to be somebody else because I didn't want them to see the real me. And then over time, like when I was at university and stuff, that voice had been no good. I wasn't aware that it changed. It just changed over time, and that's where it developed into the eating disorder voice, which again I thought was like a godlike thing, just saying, "You can't eat that, you shouldn't eat that, you'd be better if you lost weight. No, you don't need that much, you don't got that much, it'd be better if you do this, you'll be a good person if you do that, if you lose weight." And it became, as well as saying I was no good in everything and everybody was better than me, that element was new to it. It hadn't said it up till then, but food came in, weight came in, and that's where what I say became the anorexic voice, which took over. Yes, I was bad, I knew I was bad, so they didn't need to tell me it anymore. But the voice saying, "You can't eat this, you can't eat that, how many calories has that got in?" So it didn't feel like it was an internal voice. It didn't feel like it was a part of me. It felt like it was an external voice because it was saying, "You can't eat this, you can't eat that, you're bad now, you've eaten that.
Why did you listen to it?
Because it was all encompassing. It was so loud. It was constant all the time. It was there no matter what. Even when I got down to 4 stone, it was saying the same things. You're still big. You're still eating too much. 100 calories a day. You still need to eat less. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't. It was still there.
Was there a
It was
point
never good enough.
were you ever at a point where, looking at it, you could see that it was never going to stop, and actually what it was telling you was a lie, because it was never, like you say, it was never enough. So because the belief was never enough that you believed, you listened to the voice. Is that what you say?
Yeah, because I was never enough. My aim was to try and get the outside voice to accept me, to say that I'd done enough, that I was okay, but it was just...
Who was it really, this entity, this outside voice of, what you were listening to? So why were you trying to please it?
Because I felt that if I pleased it, I'd be good enough, so I'd feel happy. I also had that because of, obviously I went through normal things of exams and that at school. It was like, right, when I get over this next test, I'll be fine. I'll start again. I'll be a new person. When I go away to university, I'll start again. I'll be a new person. I'll not take him or whatever it was with me. When I pass my driving test, everything will be all right. I was always striving to be a good person, but internally I knew it was all masking because I was really evil, because that's what they told me when I was little. That's what I was trying to pretend I wasn't. So there was all sorts going on, which I think were a lot too much to deal with, that it was just all focused on keeping that voice. And that for many years while I had anorexia nervosa, that was the be all and end all of everything, keeping that voice happy and trying to at least one area. I might not be a good person, I might not be this.
That to you and say, I'm happy now.
No, it was like, yeah, there was that bit of, yeah, but, when I got weighed or this and my weight had gone down, or I'd eat less calories, or it'd be like, yes. But there was never an acceptance, there were never enough, and there never have been, but it took a long time for me to understand that the voice and everything that I thought was controlling my whole life and the whole world to make me a bad person and to punish me, it took a long time. I was so fixed in my mind that it was like, in therapy at first, it was like, no, God's punishing me. And it was like, I was so fixed, I was immovable.
Why would you make, there's in the world, madness plays out in many groups. So what I mean by groups is groups of people or families or so the madness plays out there. Lots of people are pretending. You might go online and say, I eat this certain diet when they don't, or I do this thing and they don't. And the times where I've, so like you can be sat in a gym and people are taking photographs, but they haven't, the feet haven't moved on the pedal, can't say it, pedals.
Yeah.
So so they're doing all these things to make this fake character up about themselves while they're playing another character. Do you see what I mean? So this madness spreads then, and the reason why I'm calling it madness is that's the word that was used in in all the books. And so I remember a guy, I think he was called Eric in the 60s, a psychologist and a psychiatrist, I think he was, and he kind of spoke about the madness then. And someone was saying, how can we get out of this? And he said, well, people can't get out of it unless they see it. You have to see your way out of it. So, but quite often in groups, so say like you've got a group of people, and these characters that we have, so we have different character types. So say like you've got a character type of people that can be childlike figures. Let's have a look at the childlike figure. And the childlike figure or the victim. So the childlike victim figure, what they might often play is that will play over and over again in their ego as you experience. I'm feeling like my child, or I'm scared, or things like that. So that can play over and over again. So if you imagine a group of people growing up in that, well, then if you say you're in an environment that's abusive, then you're going to have victims. Children are going to be victims in that environment. And so what we end up with then, what you can end up with is a group of people that complain about everybody. So, and quite often in society, you can hear the voice loud and clear about people complaining about other people. So they can start to complain about everybody, and it feels like you're almost solving the problem. What we're doing, we're putting the world to rights. We're not. We're just playing out, or the ego chatters playing out all the judgments that you were fed with, so that it recorded, yeah. So and also to try and make you feel better about who you are. So that's ultimately what the ego does. It plays out and it always thinks it's right. Even when it tells you it's wrong, it thinks it's right, as yours did, or it interpreted things right. And it always thinks it's right, but it's the illness. And so quite often in the illness, everybody's having the same conversations. So they're having the same negative conversations, or the same toxic conversations, or the same blames conversations. It's not my fault, it's somebody else's fault. And if they would change, my world would be a lot better. And so everybody wants everybody else to change to suit them and for everything to be a lot better. But it's not going to happen. And so they're ever disturbed. And that's why you can see where people don't agree with each other in their ego stories, which is a made up story, because it always wants something. That's the thing that we weren't taught. You need to overcome the want. And when somebody says to the child, you're getting on my nerves, it's not the child that's getting on your nerves, it's the voice in your head that's telling you a story about the child getting on your nerves. The child's just being a child. But quite often, what the ego does, it blames everyone. It will blame a newborn baby, it will blame a dog, an animal, it will blame everyone.
Thing my mum was saying this week, the dog's been really, really naughty.
Yeah.
And when I asked what's it been doing, it'd been barking when he had not some posts come through, and it's like he's been a dog, but he's naughty because it annoyed her that it was barking, and he woke her up because she was just napping in front of telly and stuff like that. So it's something simple that we all do, and it's learning things like this that is helping me remember that voice that I hear is an accumulation of all these things, and it's not telling me the truth.
It's not telling you the truth, and the way you get this voice is that we're programmed. How are we programmed? Well, we're programmed to be controlled in society. So society, instead of taking care of you and taking care of the inside of you, we've been told to take care of everybody else in the external world. And if we believe that, and I'm not saying, don't be kind to people. I'm not saying don't do that, but also be kind to yourself. Where you're told to give to everybody, or become very selfish. I want. And so, but we're controlled in that. So the things that we're controlled in, when you look then at the world and say, this voice is quite nasty. So, and I got this from my external world. And if I go, where did you get it from, my external world? Where did you get it from? Who started this? Who started this story in the first place, these stories? Why are we living in this way? But we don't investigate. When some people might say, when, say, for instance, you watch those beautiful videos where animals have come back out of the wild and met, and people say, oh, look at that, the lion's hugging their owner. And people just normalize that. And it's like, wow, you don't see that you've imprisoned animals. We have imprisoned them because we imprison ourselves all the time. So we imprison everything around us as well. So we don't recognize that evil within inside of us, because we do what we are, and we've been imprisoned the majority of our lives. We've been programmed in a prison that pretends that we've got freedom, and we don't. And that's why I've said on the previous videos, that's why we pay tax. because we're meant to. That's why we have laws to imprison us. That's why we have rules. That's why we're giving must, should, have to, got to by the time you finish. You say all these things to yourself because we've been in prison. Everything in our world has been controlled. If you go in a supermarket, your food is controlled. So you have this little section of organic food that's really good for the human being, or the other big massive section of all the other food that really doesn't do us any good because it's products and chemicals. So we live off of chemicals. And so when you look at the world as it really is, we see, and you're saying, well, I'm bad. Well, then where did you get that from? You came on this planet, an innocent child, and something happened to you, and then you took it in. And what you said was part of survival is the world is good, and I'm bad. Yeah. And all that was played out in those developments of your ego and super ego.
And the interesting thing that you've said is that what happens in childhood, if not dealt with and not be balanced or not be a healthy experience, it goes into adulthood and it'll continue until it is resolved. But if nobody's there to actually tell you that actually that it is wrong, you just live with it, like I did for many years, and was so fixed when I started having therapy. It was like I wasn't moving in any of my beliefs. And you still find things that collude with it to make you think, see, I told you I'm right. You're trying to convince me something else, like slightly different, but it just colluded with me being a bad person. Is even a couple of years ago when COVID happened and the vaccine came out, I didn't want the vaccine. I don't like the idea from being abused. I don't like the idea of something in my body that I don't know what's happening, I'm not in control of, I don't want it, I don't want somebody sticking something in me and all that kind of thing. And I was scared of going to a person and somebody hurting me and all those things. But all I heard on the news was, if you don't do it, you're not a good person. You've got to have the vaccine. If you all want to look after your family, if you want to look after the community, you've got to go have this done. You've got to put yourself through that. So I did.
Or a chemical to be put into your body.
So I did because I wanted to be a good person. I didn't want to be. I was trying everything I do.
And how come animals don't then? How come animals don't? How come animals don't have hospitals? They survive. They survive very well. You don't see aging and grey things in animals. I don't see aging and grey things in flowers. The only animals that don't and become ill, that get similar illnesses to us, are the ones that eat the similar things to we do. So, maybe there might be a place where if we didn't have so many chemicals, we'd survive quite fine without being, because illness is big business. Every time you put the TV on, you're going to be hit with that, aren't you? So when you look at it, ultimately it's what we do.
Yeah.
In the stories of our ego and our one.
And that, to be fair, that one thing, I didn't get it at the time when COVID was happening and I was having the injections. I just knew that I was anxious. I didn't want it done. But I had to have it done because I wanted to be a good person and I didn't want to hurt anybody else. But it actually made me very, very physically ill, did having the COVID vaccine. I had that, what other people have commented about, the really bad headache, and couldn't lift my head off the pillow, and I thought it was going to explode. And it stayed there for very, very many weeks. Not as severe, it slowly went off, but my head felt very funny for a good few weeks. And then what did I hear? You need a booster, you need to have it again. Regardless of what's happened to you or how it's made you feel, you still need to have it because you're still not a good person until you have the booster, until you have the second one.
But then you're going against myself. You're going against, you come to be validated, don't you? The majority of people just want validation.
Yeah. And it was a mirror of the abuse. No matter what it's making you feel,
it doesn't
sacrifice yourself to meet our needs.
Yeah.
So it was sacrifice. When I'm out of it at little, sacrifice what I wanted because it met his needs. The vaccine, no matter how ill you get, yes, you felt like your rectum were going to explode and you were ill for 4 weeks. But never mind that. To be a good person, you've got to have it again. It was.
So who are you pleasing then?
Well, what I thought was God and the outside world, but the messages that I got from the media about COVID just fitted in with that recording, which was my ego.
So what I see, everybody should have free will to be able to do what they want to do. We're all autonomous human beings. And if we're born autonomous human beings, then when you see that autonomy taken away from you, the way that I see it is it removes you from being a human. Yeah. And so it wouldn't make sense that, humans think we own this planet. We didn't create this planet. We didn't create it. We've become greedy and wanting to own everything. This is my city, this is my country, this is mine. And that's in the ego. Do you see what I mean? So it's like before the child learns to share, the id is it's mine. So you can see all the ids playing out, mine. This is my country, this is mine. And it doesn't belong to any of us. Do you see all the things that were here on this planet were here before we arrived on it? We don't manifest them and create them. We manifest things that are already here. We just shape them. Something else put them here. Yeah. We can't, as far as I know, anyway, make a baby. We can't, and I've said that many times. We're given the tools to make a baby, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you could go to a hospital or whatever and ask somebody if they can make you a fingernail. Yeah, I don't know anyone that can make a fingernail out of nothing unless they're going to use what's already here. Therefore, do you think if somebody could make something as amazing as a planet or whatever, however it appeared and made us, then do you think it would seriously make us that defective that we need chemicals where your body's going to say, I don't like this? Won't your body celebrate it? And if it was the right thing to do, when you know that you've eaten something you shouldn't have eaten, doesn't your body tell you?
Yeah, and I think, I know it's going on a different tangent, but that's just reminded me because I have had a bad week with my eating, as in, because I have binge eating disorder now. But that's a punishment because I know all about health, I know all about nutrition, I know all those things and this, that, and other. So when the switch goes and it's like I want to hurt myself, I want to punish myself, I feel I need punishing because I'm not being punished enough by the outside world, what do? I eat and eat and eat and I eat. I don't binge on organic food or anything like that. I'll binge on highly processed food that isn't often cooked or is raw or is from the bin or is really highly ultra processed is the new word, isn't it? And that kind of thing as a way to, because I know that is a way,
and all these,
that is a way. All the things that say healthy and stuff like that, or that are good for you all, because I know all the chemicals.
I mean, I don't know an apple on a tree that says healthy. I don't know that.
But it's another way that I take
all the time. We're deemed
to punish myself.
We're deemed stupid, so we're told that these things are healthy. If you have to tell me that something's healthy, maybe it might not be. But if we just we tend to do the first thing that we see, don't we? It's like, I remember at school when a teacher asked me what 2 + 2 was, and I said 4, and he said, how do you know? How do you know you're being told the truth? But we're not. We tend to, we believe the first thing that we're told as a child. So as we get, as an adult, when we'll tell that story, even though that somebody over there could be listening and know, do you know that's a load of rubbish what you believe? But they tend not, it might not say no, but all of these things were always like, how do you know that's true? And that's what I say to people, don't believe a word I say, but please go out there and find out for yourself. Don't believe a word anybody says to you. When you believe, we can't do anything about that, or we can't, it's like, well, you can't, but how do I know that there might not be somebody out there that can? How do I know somebody might know the answer to that? Why would I stop here and just listen to you? And it's because of labels, and the biggest one, we can miss them. We can miss these teachings as well. So the one that that you missed, and you know, quite a lot of people might miss, is as you learn that you're here for the society, which is just a thing that's said really, because you know, how does somebody know they're doing the good of society? How do they know that they're doing the good of society? Well, unless they're selling something to you. Do you see what I mean? Who does the good of society for free then? They don't have to sell you anything. They're just saying, this is for your good. Don't you get to choose what's for your good? Do you see what I mean? Because it removes your autonomy. But that's worked very well because, number one, it not only persuaded you to have something that you didn't want. And those that want it, it's fine if that's what you want. And what you want to believe is it should be your choice, but you should have all the information available then to be able to make that choice. So that's what I'm saying. So, but the other thing is what you took in from society that you'd not recognise is because I fed society so much and said it's better than me. I really don't care about myself. And that's what the problem is that majority of people might learn that something, you know, that's bad for you. But by that time, you've learned not to give really a rat's behind about yourself. Your ego might give a rat's behind about it because it doesn't exist. It's it's a phenomenon. It's just this chattering voice constantly that tells you it wants. But ultimately, the chattering voice doesn't care about you either. No. It's just a recording. Why should it care about you when it cares about itself?
And so when I was binging and I was feeling ill and I was keeping going and eating and eating and eating, even though I felt ill and I thought I was going to be sick and I felt all shaky and this, that and other, and I'm still eating and eating. There's that voice going. There's a voice going, carry on, and there's a voice going, you need to stop now. And it was like, oh, I couldn't care less. And it's like, you're hurting yourself now. You're going to be up all night ill. You're going to feel ill tomorrow. You're going to have this. You're going to have stomach cramps. You're going to have this. And you're like, I couldn't care less.
And you think that's you, or one part of it is you. And all of it's the ego talking. All of it is the ego. The one, the mediator, maybe you should stop now. Yeah? And then the other one, couldn't care less. And all of that is the ego. So the ego and the superego has been programmed with that. It's like, but who's observing it? There's somebody behind all that that's telling me that today and saying, well, you observe that happening. And you've been buried so far under the courts of the ego, you've forgotten what it was like. When you were born, it wasn't there. Yeah, the id had to develop to get your needs met, but that the ego and the superego wasn't there. It developed. So who was there before that? You know, you see children, they're so happy and smiling, and then eventually, as they get older, because of what society does and what's done to them and what they're told, wipes the smile off the face. So who is there before that? And so now you know what your ego and superego are doing. That's the brain. You're not a thinking machine. You're life itself, but you've not been taught that.
And there's also sometimes now, and it's minute episodes, but they're there that I can observe all this playing out. I can observe me wanting to do my exercising, wanting to stick to my routines, and it takes that I am or whatever it is to go, I can see it wanting to do it, but just don't join in with it. And there's tiny, tiny little elements of that coming in now, rather than that fixed person I was before therapy. It's like, forget it. There's no point in even going there because God's punishing me. So let's just talk about other things that can be changed, because that is never going to change because I'm such a bad person. And that's how I was at the beginning of therapy. But now I am having, unfortunately, it tends to be afterwards I can see what I've done and how I've been affected by the ego and everything like that. But there are elements and points where I can say, I can see where this is going. I can see it. But very rare.
And I think it's looking at in the world of people, God and the devil, and the world of good and evil. We're born with free will. So because we're given free will, then it's looking at that, it's saying it's us doing it. It's us doing all the nasty things on the planet. Yeah, we're doing it. And we have free will to do it, or we have free will to stop. But some of that might be taken away because we've been programmed before we arrived to do what we're told when we get here. Do you see what I mean? It was already happening before you got here. And then the rules got more and more stricter and things like that. And it's there's something in therapy you call moving the spotlight. So what somebody might do then is if they're doing something, they might move the spotlight and make you look at them. And so to make somebody look somewhere else, they'll tell a story about them, which is often stories in history as lies. And then this person can be, praised for all the good that they're doing, but behind the scenes, they're not. Do you see what I mean? But we never look behind the curtain. We're always too interested in what's dangling right in front of us, instead of having a little bit look and say, are they really doing good? Are we really doing it? Do you think a dog is really happy walking around with a lead around its neck? But we've decided they're just too dangerous. Yeah. And we're the most dangerous thing on this planet. Aren't we the most dangerous thing on this planet?
Now I see things, I do think some funny things. Like that, there was totally irrelevant, but it was like there was a sheepdog on the telly the other day. My mum was watching Alan Teach Maths, and it was a sheepdog rounding up games for some reason. And I just went, who wants the dog if he wants that job?
Exactly. We just have these, people get dogs and dress them up, and if that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. But when you're looking at it, it's like, does anybody look and have empathy for the dog and say, what must it be like? All this dog wants to do is run, and whenever it runs, it's pulled back. No. Do you see what I mean? Because if you're in a prison, that's all you can teach. And that gets revealed when you see how all the animals that are kept in a prison, all the things that we do, and somebody will have a story to make it okay for them to do it. And if that's what they want, that's okay for them.